Welcome back. It's time now for Media Watch, and I'm joined by James Creedon. Hello, James.
Evening, Annette.
Now, the British press are very predictable. Normally, they don't tend to shy away from scandal, but they've almost come across as sort of being rather shy when it comes to coverage of Prince Harry's sort of nude romp in a Las Vegas hotel room.
A little bit more coy than usual, that's for sure. And the photo, the front pages, we were seeing a lot of them in the past couple of days online. There were photos of him as well in trunks, etc. But anyway, the scandalous photos appeared on TMZ.com. Let's take a look online because they're very easily accessible. Photos of him basically in the nude. And this was at a hotel suite in Las Vegas where he invited up people at the bar and they had a game of strip billiards, etc., etc. And the photos got out. Now, the thing is, will or should the British papers republish these photos? They were on sale for something like £10,000 to be bought up by 10 British publications who did express interest but didn't go ahead and print the papers. And let's look at some of the solutions that they came up with. The Sun actually got one of their picture editors, Harry Miller, also called Harry, to strip off, and a young intern of 21 years of age, Sophie Henderson, posed as the mystery girl behind Harry in the original shot, which I'll show you now just for contrast purposes, I suppose, or comparison purposes, more like.
I hope that young intern is now getting a permanent position at the paper.
Well, she, maybe she will now. Actually, over at The Guardian, and they're known to be kind of critical of the Murdoch-owned press, aren't they, in The Guardian?
Just a tad.
Sun denies a pressured intern to strip for Prince Harry front page. That's a kind of a misleading headline, actually, because they issued a declaration, Harry Miller and Sophie Henderson, saying they were put under no pressure whatsoever. And in fact, The Guardian spoke to a mystery media manager, a manager of a large media company, I wonder would that be actually at The Guardian themselves, I don't know, who said if we did that to a work experienced person, we'd worry about finding ourselves in court. So I think The Guardian are looking to stir up even further scandal with the way The Sun dealt with this sort of informal embargo on printing this photo, and that's, I suppose, the key point of interest really at the moment. Look at this headline in Reuters: Naked Prince pics ban reveals a chastened British press. You've also got the Canadian media talking about this. If I could find the headline, they've been talking about this photo, in fact, and the National Post in Canada reminded us of this photo going back some 20 years ago when Sarah Ferguson, the then Duchess of York, was snapped at a French villa involved in some toe sucking, and that's exactly what the headlines were at the time. So it seems that things have changed a lot in 20 years, and have they even changed a lot in just 15 months? And let's take a listen actually to a former editor of the News of the World, also Murdoch-owned press, by the name of Neil Wallace, talking about this newly chastened British way of dealing with scandalous photos.
I have no doubts at all that 15 months ago, those pictures would have been in these newspapers. Today, no. And I think the idea that decision, an editor's decision-making, has been taken away because of fears over Leveson is not healthy.
Now, that's very interesting because the Leveson inquiry has obviously had enormous consequences in the way that British media behave.
That's right, and indeed Neil Leveson there, he spoke also to the Huffington Post, who have his interview in the French edition of HuffingtonPost.fr as well, where he says really the Leveson inquiry, which was initially into press ethics in the UK, sparked by the Millie Dowler scandal, where this missing girl, her phone was hacked, and details of voice messages were then published in the papers. It was a massive case of invasion into private life, and it sparked this Leveson inquiry. But actually, some now are worrying that this Leveson inquiry is going to go too far. Lord Leveson, who is writing up this report for Operation Weeting, some worry that he could take it, to the other extreme, and that the British papers could find themselves muted somewhat.
Now, what's interesting about this story is that many are starting to come out in defence of Prince Harry.
Yes.
Could the scandal actually work in his favour, James?
Well, I suppose it shows a sort of a playboy side, a human side to him, less pinned up than former royals of old, I suppose. Let's take a look at the Daily Mail's article on this. How did Harry get away with it. Naked Playboy Prince receives huge swell of support for his nude antics in Las Vegas. And you have tweets from the likes of Richard Branson saying, "Shock her, single man naked in hotel room with woman. What on earth has this got to do with anybody else? Leave Prince Harry alone." Piers Morgan, "I'm shocked and disgusted by Prince Harry photos in Vegas. Why the hell wasn't I invited?" Now, to come back to Richard Branson's comment, I suppose the whole issue is this of public interest? He is the third in the line to the throne. Much of his lifestyle is funded by taxpayers' money. There is an argument to say that it is of public interest if he's, in a semi-official capacity over in Las Vegas in a luxury suite, perhaps partly funded by taxpayers' money, cavorting with mystery nudes, third in line to the throne. There's an argument
But it's
there
not
for the
new,
photos to be
James. That's
published.
the whole thing. Because if you look at the history of the British royal family, they've all got up to some sort of drama at some time in their life. You only have to go back to King Edward VII. He
Right.
was having mistresses left, right and centre.
This is true, but I suppose the whole point is, should the papers actually publish the photos? In any case, it's a debate to be had. But here, I think, just to finish on the whole Harry thing, Prince Harry's naked antics a triumph for Britain, says this particular piece in The Guardian, where they point out that actually if you make it big in the US as a Brit, the country itself likes to take some, its share of the pride. For example, at the Oscars, etc. It's not just a Brit, it's Great Britain doing well. So here, perhaps the fact that he got into TMZ.com is, good for Britain too.
Restoring a bit of cockiness into
Right.
British behaviour.
Absolutely.
Okay, now returning to that Spanish scandal that we were talking about the other day, a failed attempt to restore a Spanish fresco. Internet users are having a lot of fun with this one, aren't they?
That's right. Let's have a look at the actual work of art. Inverted commas. A woman ruined Spanish fresco in restoration attempt. This was an 80-something woman who took it on her own hands to restore a fresco in a church in Spain in the town of Boja and absolutely mangled it. It looks more like a monkey. And in any case, she now has her own account, @FrescoWoman, on Twitter with various tweets. That priest, he said, fix the fresco, so I fixed the fresco, because she's kind of blaming it on the priest, as we saw yesterday,
Yes.
saying the priest knew she was, getting out her paintbrush. And you have all sorts of mock-ups of that online. This one is on Twitter. That is The Last Supper, as reimagined by Cecilia Grimenez, who got her hands on that. Here's the Mona Lisa.
I love
this
that
one
one.
I found on Facebook. There you go. Just those black eyes, that's the bit I just can't get over. Because if you look at the original piece, the eyes were a work of art. And what did she do? She just totally,
I think she needs to make an appointment with her ophthalmologist.
Absolutely. And look, you've got people wearing face masks. This is on Instagram. So there you go. It's across the board. People really enjoying that spectacular fail.
Very quickly, the English language appears to be officially evolving towards text message. The Oxford English Online Dictionary is now adding new lingo, I understand.
That's right. Lols, ridic, mwahahaha, all have been added to the Oxford Online Dictionary. So as Time Newsfeed puts it, the velvet rope has been lifted for another hot young gaggle of words. And mwahahaha is the most bizarre, I think, because that is an expression of laughter. But why the how do they decide how many ha-has to put into the official version of the word? Different things like that, quite odd. And ridic, which is short for ridiculous.
I have to say this is betraying my age, but I probably need to look at that dictionary, because a number of times I receive text messages and I'm going, what does that mean?
You have to evolve or die, as they say.
James Creedon, thank you so much for that. And coming up next, it's our time for the look at what's making waves online. That's in Web News after the break.